So,
like call a talk show about the feedback.
Yes.
What was the first question?
It was essentially, what was the biggest thing you took away from the lesson?
Biggest thing.
Yes. What was the most important skill or fact you learned?
We both like inhaled like we were gonna talk. So biggest takeaway for me from this activity was probably just like putting on your like best face when you're talking with someone professionally, which is kind of how you introduced the activity. Was like, we're gonna be doing like scenarios where you're interviewing or you're something, you know. And so my initial thought was like, oh, okay, I need to put on my best face. So every time I like put my hand up here, I was like, put it down, Emma, put it down, you know. So I tried to put on a professional demeanor throughout the activity, which is probably what I took away the most.
I really liked that it brings in a critical thinking element for your students, because like they have to think like, okay, I need to put myself in this person's shoes. You know, like what have my interactions been with this person, whether it be a job interview or a principal, your mom, you know, things like that. And so it puts them in their shoes, and it's like, okay, well, how do they talk to students? And I think it also like would be like raising awareness in them, like, well, how do I talk to people now? You know, like, what should I be doing? Those kind of things.
I also just realized that this would be like the perfect lesson to attach to FCCLA, because there is a competition about interviewing. And some of the interviews that while I was judging, I got to like see at the table next to me, I was so impressed by how those high schoolers handled it. And I feel like this is a really good lightweight way of preparing your students for things like that. And that's a good work skill, life skill, and FCLA competition skill.
Heck yeah. So when did you both feel the most involved in my activity?
For me, definitely when I got to ask the questions to Emma. Because like when you were asking the questions to Emma, it was like you guys were interacting, and then I was just like, I think she's a counselor, like that's my guess, which was wrong, but you know, still following the conversation, but just kind of sitting on the sideline. So definitely when I was involved in it.
I was there pretty much the whole time. I was pretty involved the whole time. I think that like the first time, halfway through, I like hit me. I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be figuring out who you are, not just like
answering
playing
these questions.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I was like, who are you? And I felt like I was in a job interview, but I didn't like registered. She's like, is the job interview, that is like what she is, you know. So the next time that I did it, I was like had this critical thinking in the back of my skull going on, like, all right, what are you, you know what I mean? And so that mentally was very engaged for me, because I was answering questions, trying to be professional internally, externally, as well as figure out who are you, you know. So honestly, I think the second time around was more engaged for me. Yeah.
So how do you think I could improve this activity?
So there's definitely the concern that Shannon brought up about how if you're modeling for the class, it needs to be, I would suggest if you do that, select a student that you know is already very like theatrical almost, so that they are engaged in watching the run through. And then when you like spread them out, maybe pass these out in a way that, I don't know, is a little bit quicker than just passing a hat between the entire class, because then you have kids that are waiting for it, and then they get totally off topic while they're waiting for the hat to pass.
Like having separate copies of each one.
Yeah, or like separate hats, like some at each table or something like that. But yeah,
something else that I was thinking of is like, instead of it like a one-on-one, it'd be like a one-on-group, so like the whole group can kind of figure out
like a board kind of thing.
So they all have to pay attention at the same time. That way it's not like one-to-one and then these four are just kind of sitting there. Either that, or do it, if you're going to do it one-to-one, do it one-to-one, 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 like the whole group kind of deal.
So what would you say would be like the perfect group size? Like 4? Because one could be the...
Yeah, I think it depends on how you set it up. Like, if you set it up to where it's, like, one on group, then 4 probably would be good.
I wouldn't do any more than 4. Because then because if you do too many, 4 I think is healthy. But I think any more than that, like 3 or 4 probably. Yeah. Because if you do more than that, then you have the ones that are, like, really good at, like, I'll do all of the, you know, answering or asking. And then the other ones are like, all right, you got your thing, let me text under my desk. You know? So, yeah.
And you can also
3,
have it
4.
set up to, like, if you have 3 or 4 in the group that, you know, Laura does the, like, she gets to pick out of the hat, and then Emma gets to pick out of the hat and ask the group, and then I get to pick out of the hat and ask the group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, smaller groups you can do that. Everybody gets their chance
Right.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about that though is that it's starting to become much more common to have group job interviews, and so that is actually a valuable like work skill as well, to not be able to just have a one-on-one, let me have eye contact with you and such, but also be able to give an answer that like is
Stands
well
out.
articulated and stands out among other people that are being interviewed at the exact same time.
True.
Very true.
Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys.
Thanks.